program. In this edition, we will evaluate inside Iran's secret influence, how Ayatollah Khomanei shapes Islamic radicalization in Africa. Across Africa, a shadow spreads, quite strategic and deadly, from the deserts of the Sahel to the streets of Nigeria and Sudan. Extremist ideologies are reshaping entire nations. And behind much of this influence, thousands of miles away in Tehran, stands one man, Ayatollah Khomanei. Through religious schools, political networks, and hidden alliances, Iran's supreme leader has left his mark on Africa's rising radicalization crisis. In just 30 seconds, you will see how his influence fuels conflict, destabilizes governments, and affects millions of lives today. Ayatollah Ali Khomanei has led Iran since 1989, guiding its politics and religious ideology. While most know his influence in the Middle East, few realize the reach of Iran's ideological network across Africa. This isn't just about religion, it's about power, strategy, and shaping entire regions. Today, we will break down how Iran exports its version of Shia Islam, how it fuels radicalization, and why it matters for Africa and the world at large. Iran's strategy in Africa is subtle and multi-layered. First, religious education. Iran-funded madrasas teach theology, sometimes blending radical interpretations into lessons. 2, political alliances. Iran cultivates relationships with governments and political factions, influencing local power structures. Thirdly, support for militias. Groups like Boko Haram and the Sahel-based factions indirectly benefit from the network linked to Iran through training, funding, or ideological inspirations, unquote. It must be noted that radicalization in Africa takes many forms. Extremist groups use religion to justify violent campaigns, recruit youths, and destabilize governments. Boko Haram in Nigeria, Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Various Sahel-based militia exploit ideological networks to strengthen their foothold. Education, propaganda, and political alliances create a pipeline where radical ideas spread quickly and often undetected. Over 2 million displaced in the Lake Chad basin due to extremist activities. In Sudan, Iran's presence influenced political factions and religious institutions, leaving a legacy that persists even after Sudan's political shifts. In Nigeria, Boko Haram's ideology shows indirect signs of foreign influence, blending local grievances with extremist teachings. Across the Sahel, she has leveraged these networks to destabilize governments and control territories. Each region shows a different manifestation, but the threat of external influence linked to Khomanei's Iran's influence remains constant. The consequences of these problems are stark: terrorism, political instability, and the social polarization remains the benchmark. Government struggles to maintain radical factions, leaving communities vulnerable. Billions of lives are disrupted, economies falter, and regional security remains fragile. Even where direct violence ends, the ideological legacy persists, shaping the next generation. Question is, what do African leaders do? United Nations, and communities at large. What does the interfaith dialogue mean? Youth education program and local police training. African and international partners are responding. Education programs aim to counter extremist narratives, while governments and peacemakers work to dismantle militant networks. Interfaith initiatives help bridge divisions, promoting social cohesion. Understanding the network and the strategies of influence, like Khomanei's reach, is critical to creating effective solutions. Ayatollah Khomanei's influence in Africa is more than distant politics. It is a story of ideology, strategy, and human cost. Awareness is the first step to reliance. By understanding the networks and their impact, communities can build strategies, stronger defense against radicalization. But before I end this very program, I would like my viewers to understand what the radical ideology of Khomeini is called. It is termed Khomeinyanism. This focuses on liberating the oppressed. The question is, who are the oppressed? To Khomeini, the oppressed are those who are receiving Western education, Christians, and resisting anything Western. And the ideology expanded to Africa is just but to form a resistance bloc, which has today caused a geopolitical friction. For instance, states like Sudan, Nigeria, and SAHEL region, where the extremists have been battling to dismantle the constituted government of the day. We should not forget, again, we ask the question, how does this ideology penetrate into the society, especially among those who are influenced? This is through education. Iran established a school called Al-Mustafa International University in Iran. This is where African clerics are trained with their seminaries across African continent. This facilitates the conversions to Shia Islam, particularly in Nigeria, Senegal, and Tanzania. Iran has exploited anti-colonial sentiments to foster closer ties with nations in the Sahel and other regions, promoting anti-US, anti-Israel agenda, often offering economic, technological, or military cooperations with these African countries. Well, there are more to that. The non-state actors are supported by this group. Iran has utilized its revolutionary ideology to support armed groups and the Shia movements across Africa. Example, Islamic movement of Nigeria, connections to Hezbollah, sometimes causing conflict with local authorities. Iran's influence has intensified rivalry amongst international actors, with some nations switching allies based on which side offers better financial or security benefits. The question is, how does this affect the relations between United States and Africa and other world actors like Russia and China? This has made Africa to be horn of power struggle among the superpowers. To the United States, it identified Iranian-backed activities in Africa as a threat to regional stability and American interest, including monitoring Hezbollah-linked money laundering in West Africa and Iranian drone proliferation. This is the main reason why the United States is moving around up African nations making friendship. The aim is to limit economic activity of Iran in Africa. This is why US has maintained a focus on bolstering stability in Africa to counter the spread of radical ideology competing with Iran's influence operations. So you can see from this, there is a lot of battle in Africa. Battle of influence and business control. Summarily, Ayatollah Khomanei's legacy legacy in Africa has been the introduction of new competitive, ideological, and often militant force. This has created a more complex and polarized environment for US-African relations, where African nations increasingly find themselves in the middle of a broader geopolitical struggle between Iranian-backed networks and Western interests. But the good question is, what is Africans' interest? Is it money laundering in the Western world? Or is it importation of finished products from their own natural resources? Or is it to serve the Western interest only? So one would ask this question. This is because up to this moment, African youths, even the leaders, do not know what their interest is. Is it only coming to Western world to look for jobs and better well-being, where they are treated with no regards, irrespective of what profession they have? It is high time one questions what the interests of African leaders are. This is a big question our viewers have to answer or contribute to this very debate. Conclusively, the story of Ayatollah Khomanei's influence in Africa is not just about religion, it is about power, ideology, and the human cost of radicalization. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for building resilient communities and preventing future conflicts. If you found this video insightful, like, subscribe, and share. Let's keep the conversation going about the forces shaping our world today.